Reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
You're listening to the Happy Hearthstone. This show is brought to you by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon with Doghouse Systems. By Audible. Get your free audiobook and your free trial today. By GoDaddy. Put your website to work while you play. Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the Happy Hearthstone podcast, the longest running Hearthstone podcast in the history of space and time and cards. I'm your host, Josh Augustine, and this week I'm joined by Adam Clegg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Clegg. How are you doing?
The most generic intro you could have had. The only thing they knew about you is the thing you chose to repeat.
Exactly.
Why don't you give a random fact about yourself? Like, this is the first day of, 5th grade, and you have to introduce yourself.
Well, if you are a longtime listener of the Happy Hearthstone podcast, you should already know who I am.
Oh, that's true.
That is it's like trivia.
Come on. Give them something that even those guys don't know about
Okay.
you.
I am a video game designer for Sony Online Entertainment, as is Josh, and that's where we met. And a random fact about myself is I like eating milk chocolate because dark chocolate's for suckers.
Is it because you hate being healthy?
It's because dark chocolate just isn't good, okay? You gotta have milk.
Man.
Milk's strong for the bones.
Nah, see, I like dark chocolate because I feel like I'm being healthy when I'm eating it. So I feel like it's
you're
like...
eating,
this isn't
newsflash,
really...
you're eating chocolate.
Yeah, but it's chocolate that somehow goes in my body and is like small robots that heal me.
Whoa, what kind of chocolate are you eating?
Well, that's like what antioxidants are, right? And
do you want to know a pro tip?
Yeah.
Mexican chocolate.
What does that mean exactly? Just chocolate made in Mexico, or is this something entirely different?
No, Mexican chocolate is better than regular chocolate because it has now I could be wrong on this, but it just tastes better, and I don't know why. I think it's because it has a kick to it, and that's why it's special, or why it's called Mexican chocolate.
Hold on. I'm looking it up on Wikipedia, so
Okay.
we're going to have an answer here.
Okay.
It's got to have... let's see. Oh, this is saying it's Mexican hot chocolate.
Yes, Mexican hot chocolate. That's what I meant. But when I said Mexican chocolate, I meant if you ever order hot chocolate, make sure you get Mexican hot chocolate.
Here it says that it's often with cinnamon.
Ah, cinnamon. See, that's the secret thing.
And something that I don't know what is lecithin.
You don't know what lecithin is? Come on.
What is it's a generic term to designate any group of yellow, brownish, fatty substance. Oh, gross. What are you having me put in this chocolate, dude? This sounds horrible.
That's probably why it tastes so good.
Probably, actually, yeah.
That's the secret.
Filled with some gross yellow fat. So there you go. Mexican chocolate. Don't eat it, or else you'll become
No, definitely
fat.
eat it. All
right. So Adam is on the show. He's a game designer. He is the person that really got me into card games. Really got me into card games down here in San Diego. Some of the guys up at PC Gamer got me into card games. How about digital card games, Adam? We are blood brothers in that.
Do you know what? I got you more into cards. How about that? You were already into card games, but I got you more into cards.
That's true. And he also has better card strategy and card game ideas than anybody I know. So that's why he's here, because he's had this idea that he's been telling me during lunch for 4 months. And I think about 4 months I've been talking about it on the show, saying Adam's going to come on and talk about it. And finally, we're here. I'm excited. Before we get into that, Adam, let's talk about why we're happy this week. I'll go first. I really can't think of a reason to be happy other than my son. So I'm happy because...
Aww,
I know, right?
That's cute.
He started smiling recently, and it's just wonderful. I could have the worst day possible, and you just come home and he looks at you and he kind of smiles, and then you pick him up and he kind of laughs, and it's just my life is over.
Yeah,
so
you can't
good.
stay mad at that.
No, not at all. No matter how many diapers of his I have to clean.
Oh.
So why are you happy, Adam?
I'm happy that I don't have a kid, so I don't have to clean diapers.
that is a legitimate reason.
Everything that you are unhappy about having a child, I'm happy that I don't have one.
Okay. You're actually sleeping more than 2 hours at a time?
I actually get to stay up super late, watch Twitch streams, go to bed late, and I still get in more sleep than you do.
Yeah, but I have found out a sweet trick where I can hold my son and play Hearthstone at the same time.
Yeah, he's learning too. He's just watching.
No, he's asleep the whole time. The
Oh.
only way I can get him is like I just lay him on my stomach and lean back in my chair so it's kind of flat, so I feel safe, like only holding him with one hand.
Nice.
Now that I think about it, I really look like that the really gross guy in the South Park WoW episode.
Oh,
Because I'm
God.
like, I'm leaning back like that with my head barely perched up. I got this big belly, but the belly is my son instead of my fat yellow modules from my Mexican hot chocolate.
That is you. You are now
That
part of
is
the
me.
problem.
My son has turned me into a monster. All right, so we got 2 pieces of news that we just have to talk about, right? Because we can't get into the rest, because this is what everyone's thinking about.
First of all, before you start, I have to say I'm excited that I'm on this podcast again because I've been wanting to come back for a long time, so thank you for having me. And let's
Aw.
get started.
Adam, come on, you're already on the show. You don't need to flatter me now. you got what you wanted.
Okay.
Just don't disagree with me at all during the show, and I'll have you on again.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right. First potential disagreement. Nerf to Leroy Jenkins.
I think it was much needed. A much needed nerf. Leroy Jenkins is already like a fluff card. Like when I saw it when the game first came out, I was like, "Oh, that's funny. It's Leroy Jenkins. It's a joke card." And then it turned into like the must-have card in like the highest level decks. And
Yeah.
the kind of combos that you can do with Leroy are insane. Like the most famous one is probably on Handlock, where with 10 mana you can cast a Leroy Jenkins, give it a power overwhelming, and then use Faceless Manipulator to copy it, and you have 2 10-4 Leroy Jenkins, so you do 20 damage in one turn with Leroy.
Which is absurd.
And if you have Soulfires to go on top of that, you can potentially do 28 damage in one turn.
Yeah.
It's
which
pretty
is just-
absurd. Yeah, I mean, that's just
Yeah.
one class. I think every single class had something crazy that you could do with Leroy. So I
Yeah.
think it was much needed. Making it 5 mana doesn't ruin it. He's still viable if you want to just run one Leroy in like a really fast deck and you're just trying to get extra damage in. But it definitely kills a lot of the combos.
Yeah, which seems good, right? Because it still has a place in certain decks, but it doesn't have a place in every deck.
I still dusted him. I still got my 1600 dust.
Oh, okay. Did you do it just because you knew you would get that much dust?
Yeah, just because.
Okay.
And if something happens in the next couple weeks where he's all of a sudden good in a certain type of deck, I can craft him again.
Yeah, there's really no downside to dusting him at this point,
No
unless you're
downside.
actively using him.
But I'm probably going to trade him in for a different legendary.
Yeah. Okay, so which legendary are you going to get? I'm
I
curious.
might get Ysera because I don't have Ysera yet.
Oh, Ysera is so fun.
Ysera's good.
That is the one I want that I haven't
Yeah.
gotten. That's the one I hate every time someone uses it.
I don't have Ysera and I don't have Archmage Antonitis, which is another card that I might get
Oh yeah,
because the new mage
that's
deck
the
is really
mage
good.
or legendary, right?
Yeah, and the new mage deck is actually really fun and uses him.
Okay. Yeah, mage has gotten a lot of fun
Yeah.
lately with all these changes. All right, let's talk about the other nerf though. This is the one that I wish I could dust. Starving Buzzard. He was a 2-mana 2/1. Now he's a 5-mana 3/2. This is a much heavier nerf
Yes.
than
this
Leroy
is
Jenkins, right?
this is not just a nerf. This is a slap to face of the card, and like you're never going to use this card ever again. Nerf, which I never really like to see.
Yeah.
But I actually sent a tweet to the community manager Zariah and Ben Brode, who's the senior game designer on Hearthstone, and I said the Buzzard should be a 2/1 for 3 that has a battle cry, draw a card, draw 2 cards if you have a beast in play.
Okay.
And
I like that.
And he actually responded. One of the senior game designers responded.
Brode?
Ben Brode responded, and he
Nice.
said, "That's a pretty different card. We could make that card too. It's just very different emotionally." So they were more worried about the emotional side of the change rather than actually just changing the card completely. And
Yeah,
then I responded with, "Unleash the Hounds became a pretty different card too, so doesn't mean you could always have to follow the rule of being emotional."
Yeah, it kind of felt like, so over the course of like the past 6 months, right? I think this combo saw more changes than any other combo in the game between Unleash the Hounds and Starving Buzzard.
Yeah, well, first they thought the problem was Unleash the Hounds, which Unleash
Yeah.
the Hounds was a very powerful card, and they changed that card multiple times. And then they found out that the problem isn't Unleash the Hounds, it's the combo with Unleash and Buzzard.
Yeah. And, man, yeah, it felt like at this point, this nerf was just like, okay, we've tried so many changes, none of them are getting rid of it. Let's just get rid of this card, and we can tone it down from there. But let's just remove this so hunters have to do something else.
Yeah, it was more. It was more like let's get rid of this combo and figure it out later.
Yeah, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, nobody should be playing this card, right?
Yeah, nobody. I mean, unless you're playing Control Hunter. So I tried to mess around and play with a little bit of Control Hunter, and it's just not as good as the other control decks.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling maybe one day someone will figure out a really good Control Hunter deck, and it'll have one Buzzard and one Unleash the Hounds, just so like on turn 8 you can still cast the combo and like use it to help you win. But definitely don't run Buzzard anymore. I mean, it's done. 5 mana for a 3/2 is bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's killed by a 1 mana creature, like almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, but let's get into our real topic. Now that we got that out of the way, we are talking about how you, I guess, alter your card selection. So at the start of the game, you're given either 3 or 4 cards, and you get to choose which ones to keep and which ones to throw back and get new cards. And one thing Adam has talked with me a lot is how he changes which cards he keeps and throws away, not only based on what deck he's playing, but what opponent he's facing. And so we're going to go through kind of each of the classes and talk a little bit about, okay, you're playing a druid. Here's kind of how you should tweak which cards you keep and which ones you throw back. This isn't, an exhaustive guide, because we're giving general rules for all classes. No matter what you're playing, these are general things to keep in mind about the enemy and what they want to do and how you can stop them from doing it. So it's not going to give you, okay, I have this exact scenario, what should I do? But it's more general principles and guidelines that hopefully you can apply to those specific scenarios.
This is something that I think every ranked player from rank 15 to legendary does every game. So if you're having a problem getting to rank 15, or you get to rank 15 and you can't quite get to like rank 10, it might be because you're not keeping these in mind, and this is something that your opponent is doing every time.
Yeah,
So,
this is something that never really crossed my mind until you talked about it, because I'm always so focused on what I'm trying to accomplish.
yeah.
And I'm thinking like, well, if the enemy just leaves me alone, I'll accomplish my big thing and I'll win and it'll be great. But yeah, they never do that.
My thought process whenever I start a game is I look at the class that I'm playing, and then I think about what type of decks that class plays, and then I look at my hand, and then I decide which cards I want to keep.
Yeah.
And I do that before every single game.
Yeah, and that means it probably works better in ranked, right? Because in ranked, you can much more easily guess which decks they're playing, because they're usually playing one of the meta decks.
Yeah. Casual is just a free for all, and arena is very hard to figure out what type of deck you're playing against.
Yeah.
Arena is just basically the only information you have is the hero power.
Yeah. Which sometimes does influences which cards you keep.
Yeah, it can.
All right, so I'm going to get into some quick general philosophy before we jump into class-by-class examples. How did you learn this skill, Adam? Is this just something you just kind of learned by trial and error, like, oh, well, that didn't work?
Well, I learned by watching other big Hearthstone players, and I noticed that that's what they were doing. They were not mulliganing their cards based on what their deck needs to do. They were mulliganing their cards based on the first 4 turns of the opponent that they're playing. And that was a huge change. Whereas if I was playing let's say I was playing a combo deck, like a hunter deck, right? And I was always mulliganing to make sure that I got Unleash the Hounds and Buzzard, or one of them in my opening hand. And that's all I would do. That was an incorrect play, because if I'm playing against, a mage, and all I'm trying to do is get my combo, well, mages at the time were really control-y, and they don't play a lot of minions. So it doesn't matter if I have my combo, because I have no minions to trigger off of it. So it was just bad to do that. I should have been mulliganing for different cards based on the class that I'm playing.
Okay. And how much of an impact do you think this has on your win rate? Is this like a big deal, or is this just like, oh, well, it'll help you win 5% more?
This is a huge deal. It'll help you win a lot more. A lot more. I mean, you'll know that you kept these cards because you knew what was going to happen, and then it happened, and you went, wow, that was really cool. That happened because I thought about it before the game even started, and then you end up winning those games. So this will help. If you're not doing this, once you start doing this, you'll see your win rate go up by a lot. I would say you're probably losing games because you're not doing this.
Yeah, I've actually noticed this, and it also it helps me feel like I'm learning the other classes and how to play against them better. Because a lot of times, like against Mage, you brought up that example, they're heavy on removal, light on minions. So I'll toss away my removal unless I'm super worried about the Arcane Worm or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when
Mana
it gets
Worm.
to like Mana Worm, thank you. And then when it gets to like turn 4, and that I look and that removal just would have been a dead card this whole time. Like I feel really good. Like, oh yeah, I've kind of unlocked something. I've learned how to play better against the mage.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so how do you know what the enemy class wants to do? Is it just a matter of kind of reading up on meta decks? And because what if I'm not a huge druid player? How do you know?
Well, if you are a ranked player and you want to be a serious ranked player, you're going to have to do some research, and it doesn't have to be crazy. Like, it can just be a weekly thing. Like, once a week, there are things out there. Like, I would go to the Hearthstone Reddit once a week, and on there is usually some post about the weekly meta or the weekly rundown or any kind of website that posts some type of weekly update. And you can just, read one article a week and get a pretty good idea of where the meta is. So if you're not particularly savvy with Druid, you go to a Hearthstone Reddit or go to your favorite Hearthstone website, see what type of Druid decks are being played, and then either try to make the deck yourself and play it yourself, or just kind of remember what kind of deck it is. But I highly suggest playing every class and trying to make a deck for every class. That's the best way, because if you know that the deck that everyone's playing a ramp Druid deck, and you've never actually tried to make one yourself, you're not going to learn that fast just trying to memorize what the deck has. You learn by playing it yourself, and you kind of figure out what the deck's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to learn is see which cards and which types of things disrupt your plan when you're playing that, and being like, oh, that's a great counter. Like, okay, that's the type of card I want to keep when I'm playing against this in the future because it made me angry.
Exactly. A good example that I just recently saw is one of the pros in the BlizzCon qualifier tournaments that are going on right now played a control warrior deck, and he ran 2 brawls, where for the longest time you only ran 1 brawl, and running 2 brawls was just super clunky. You would never cast them, or another one would just sit in your hand forever. You'd never use it. Well, this pro knew that, and he knew that everyone expected 1 brawl, but he ran 2. So he would play the first brawl, and every pro that's playing against him would be like, okay, brawl went out. I know now that he only has 1 brawl. I'm going to play all my creatures. And then he would play the second brawl and he would catch all of them off guard. So definitely keeping up with the meta is a good strategy, and just trying to figure out what the decks use helps you tremendously, but it helps you also know what to throw away and what to keep when you're playing against the class.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take the current meta as best as we know it, and kind of give you step-by-step examples for all the classes, the thought process that you should go through, and the conclusions you should reach. So then hopefully, I mean, the meta won't always be this way, right? So our advice that we're giving today won't be true 3 months from now. But hopefully this will help you develop the thought process that you can look at the new meta and then walk through the same steps and reach a good conclusion. So before we get into the first one, Adam, I gotta know, when you're picking these cards, you're not just picking to counter, right? You're also picking to do your own stuff. Is it like a 50-50 split?
It really depends on the deck. So if I'm playing against a hero power that kills my stuff really easily, like a mage or a druid or a rogue, where they can kill 1 mana minions super easily, that might affect if I keep a 1 damage or a 1 toughness minion or not. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't the hero power isn't the end all of what I'm keeping. I'm really keeping stuff on what I think's going to out tempo the player, and how am I going to establish board control against this class is basically what I'm trying to keep. I the easiest way to lose a Hearthstone game is to waste your time either being fancy and hero powering stuff or not casting creatures. You definitely want to keep the tempo always up, and you always want to have some type of board control. Otherwise, the game just gets out of hand. So that's the main goal.
Okay, so you're still trying to achieve your goals, but you're kind of modifying which goals you're going for, sort of.
Yeah, it really is based on the class and the deck. So it changes based on each one.
All right, well, let's jump straight into the classes then. We're doing a wonderfully alphabetical. So I'll just kind of introduce this, Adam, and you can kind of share your thoughts on it. Just this first one. So when you're playing against Druid, no matter what deck type you are, we're going to focus on what the Druid does.
Okay.
And that'll help inform your choices.
So when you're playing against a Druid, the Druid likes to ramp on you with cards like Wild Growth or Innervate. And so you have to understand that it's very possible that they're trying to get those cards on you, and they could Innervate and cast a 4 casting cost or a 5 casting cost minion on their second turn. So, for example, if I go first and I do nothing on my turn 1, on their turn 2, they can cast Innervate, Coin, and now have 5 mana to play a Druid of the Claw. So I have to understand that that's a high possibility that that's going to happen. So I'm not keeping cards that are very slow. I'm going to try to keep cards that are quick. So if they do that on their second turn, I either have removal to get rid of it, or I have minion to at least deal some damage to it and get rid of it the next turn. Also, I'm not, if something that I'm always careful of is Keeper of the Grove. One of the worst ways you can lose tempo against a Druid is if you play a card like Knife Juggler on turn 2, which is a 3/2 toughness, or like a Wild Pyromancer on turn 2, which is also a 3/2 toughness, and on their turn 2 they innervate out Keeper of the Grove, deal 2 damage to your minion, and now they have a 2/4 and you have nothing.
Okay, so when you're picking cards, you would shy away from, even if they're strong minions that have 2 health.
Minions that have 2 health, and I would probably want to try to keep in mind that they are going to try to ramp up against me and play a big creature faster than I can. Okay. So you kind of want like cards that I like to say sticky, like they stick to the board, meaning that it's hard for them to get rid of. So anything with 3 toughness, even though they could have wrath, I mean, you want things that just stick on the board, like a Harvest Golem, where even if they kill it, it still has a 2/1 that stays around. Sludge Belcher, which is a good card, things like that.
Okay, all right. So now so I'm gonna counter with my thoughts, just because I'm not as well versed in the meta as you are. I was always super concerned with the big fatties, the Druid drop late game. So I would be worried about, like, okay, I need to keep a big guy because I want to be able to compete with his 8/8 or whatever. Do you just need to outrush them, basically?
You need to rely on your deck to actually be able to deal with an 8/8 by the time it is turn 8. You shouldn't be relying on the cards that you draw to handle an 8/8 on turn 8. Like, basically, you're trying to establish a board presence where if he plays his 8/8, you at least have some type of board control to attack it and then kill it with a spell, or just have a creature to counter with that is better, or that kills, that just destroys the 8/8.
Okay.
I mean, it depends on what class you are, right? Like, if you're playing as a mage, it doesn't matter if he has an 8/8 because you can polymorph it. And by the time it is turn 8, hopefully you drew enough cards, or you've drawn a fireball or polymorph or something that can just deal with an 8/8. You don't want to hold. You don't want to hold, like a flame strike in your hand. That doesn't do anything till turn 7. You want to hope to draw that as the game progresses.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so I feel pretty good against Druid. So the idea is, Druid can change their tempo and increase their speed kind of at any time because of Innervates. You need fast things that can respond to that, and you need sticky things that can just stall them until you catch up. Is
Uh,
that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that druids have a hard time dealing with is big minions. Druid is the worst class in Hearthstone at dealing with a big minion. So if you have an 8/8, for example, if you have an 8/8, every other class has a easier way of removing that 8/8 than the druid does, because no druids run naturalize, and naturalize is the only druid card that basically just destroys a minion. So every druid is going to have a hard time dealing with big creatures. So that is probably the best way to deal with a druid, is to just play bigger creatures than they can.
Okay. Very cool. All right, let's jump to Hunter. Now, because now that we've lost the Starving Buzzard, Unleash the Hounds, is there like a set in stone Hunter meta yet? Or is it
I think people are trying to figure out the new hunter, and and the thing that I've seen the most is a very fast face hunter, where they just basically go for face and try to kill you on turn 7 or 6, using their hero power and all their charge minions and stuff like that. The problem with those decks is they run out of gas really fast, and they're really bad against life gain. So Priest and Paladin just destroy Hunter now because they have life gain. Warrior destroys Hunter because they have the armor, which is basically life gain. It's going to be tough. I think the best Hunter deck that's going to come out is going to be some control Hunter deck that we haven't even seen yet.
Oh, you mean that control Hunter deck we saw like 6 months ago when we did the Hearthstone tournament?
Yeah.
And the guy randomly won with a really bad Hunter control deck?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was just because Hunter was just so good.
Yeah, it was just so good.
Hunter, how did we know that Hunter was going to end up being the best class for a long time? I remember earlier on an earlier episode of Happy Hearthstone, you had a friend make you a Hunter deck, and this was before anyone played Hunter.
Yeah.
And he basically made the mid-range Hunter Beast deck, which is basically the best Hunter deck ever. I mean, it didn't have exact same cards, but it was pretty close. And so Josh is winning and beating all of these people who are coming on his show, and we didn't even realize how good that Hunter deck was, because this was way before the Hunter meta even started.
Yeah, that was Dan's Hunter Beastmaster deck that topped this show for 6 months, I think. No one could beat it. It was either 5 or 6 months. Yeah, it's incredible. And I always think back to that deck because Dan actually put Hunter's Mark in that deck too, which at the time
nobody
he got
played it.
ridiculed for.
Yeah,
and now everyone is complaining about how OP the card is.
Yeah, it was definitely a deck ahead of its time, and we should have paid more attention to that. We probably could have made Legendary just on that deck alone.
I know,
it was so ahead of its time.
Yeah. Well done, Dan. Well done. All right, but let's talk about. All right, so let's go with the fast Hunter deck. Let's assume that Hunter is going to be aggro, because that's what I've seen as well. In my not as high tier play as you. So the Hunter deck just wants to deal as much damage as fast as possible. Like you said, the hero power probably to close it out once you've stabilized the board.
Yeah, if the Hunter has a bow, like the weapon, the bow, he has a kill command, and he has a hero power, that's 10 damage in one turn off of 5 mana. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot of damage that comes out of nowhere. And you're looking pretty grim pretty fast. Like, if it's turn 4, and he's already gotten you down to, like, low 20s, and then the next turn on 5, he does 10 damage to you, and now you're at, like, 12. You're like, okay, well, now he can just hero power me for 6 turns and do nothing else and still win. But he is going to do something else because that's his deck. the next turn he's going to cast an Arcane Golem and deal 4 more damage plus hero power. So then you're at 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can get out of control pretty quickly.
All right, so what is it that you're looking to do? Are you looking to get board control then at that point?
You definitely want a strong early game, because since the Hunter's hero power is just 2 damage to the face, it's hard for Hunters to clear the board. So you want to have a strong early game, so when they do cast their fast minions, they're more worried about clearing your minions than they are attacking to your face. And if they do end up attacking to your face and you have a strong early game, you can then respond by attacking to their face and controlling your board more easily.
Okay. So you're looking at stuff like Argent Squire, Elven Archer, keeping those low-cost minions that can help clear the board?
I would definitely talk about like Leper Gnome, Undertaker, Undertaker would be a great card because it just gets bigger and bigger, and if they don't deal with it, then it just gets out of control. But definitely like Loot Hoarders, Leper Gnomes, one really solid one casting cost spells.
Okay, so things that can kind of trade, but not empty your hands. So you're getting card advantage over them too.
Things that trade and also do something else.
Okay, cool. Like a Mad Scientist would be another great one.
Mad Scientist would be a good one. Acolyte of Pain.
Okay, so do you throw away anything at that point that isn't a cheap board control minion?
Unless it's like a taunt. A good taunt minion is also good against Hunter, because that forces them to have the Hunter's Mark.
Yeah. Okay, so anything that's high casting cost, you just immediately throw out.
Yeah, I'm basically getting rid of all of my high casting cost stuff, unless it's like a taunt minion, like a Senjin Shieldmaster, or a Sludge Belcher, and then everything else is going to be 1 to 2.
Okay, so say you're playing even something like late game Druid or late game Mage. You're still throwing out all that stuff. So even though your strategy is to get those cards, you're just relying on, hey, if we make it to end game, I'm going to draw those cards later. I just need something to get me there. Is that the idea?
Yeah, you don't want like a Flame Strike. I mean, you're going to be dead before you can cast the Flame Strike. You're going to be at super low health even before you can cast the Blizzard. So you want cards like Mirror Image that stall the game out. You want the Mana Worms that are hard to destroy, hard to get rid of. You want to be able to duplicate things like that. Like if you can get a duplicate on a Mana Worm, or if you get really lucky, you get duplicate on like a Sludge Belcher, then the Hunter, there's no way the Hunter's going to get through that.
Yeah. Okay. So the other thing you have here is secrets, right? Are all high level hunters running flare? Is that the idea?
I'm seeing flares because there are so many mages now, and there's a lot of paladins, and there's a lot of priests that thought steal your secrets. So I'm seeing a lot of flares being run in hunter decks, just because if you're ballsy enough to run hunter after it's been nerfed so hard, you're gonna run flares to protect yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. All right, let's go to mage, because this is it fair to say this is currently like the most resurging deck?
Mage. So there's a pro named Hyped, and his mage deck is awesome. It is like so well thought out, and it's very hard to play, and it's the closest thing to a blue magic control deck that I've ever seen.
Okay.
It is like
we're gonna put a link to this in the show notes, so don't worry. If you want to check it out, go to the show notes.
Yeah, I'll send you a screenshot of this deck. It is cool. It is the most smartly built deck that I have seen in Hearthstone in a long time.
So is that what you think most people are going to be running?
Yes. If you're playing against a mage, it's most likely going to be Hype's mage deck.
All right. So what makes it so good?
Well, it is all about aggression. If your deck is like Zoo or Hunter or any type of aggressive deck, Tempo Rogue, anything like that, this deck is built to shut it down. It has all kinds of cards that shut you down, like Doomsayer, which destroy all minions, Frost Novas, which freeze all your minions, Cone of Colds, Flame Strikes, just anything that can destroy aggressive decks. It runs Mad Scientists, which help it get its ice blocks out, because one of the hardest things before, when mage decks were running ice block, they would just lose because they never drew ice block. Well, now they basically have 4 ice blocks because they have 2 Mad Scientists, which helps them get their ice blocks. It's just a solid deck. It's really slow, and it's really hard to play because there's a lot of... It's not about how am I going to play this turn. There's a lot of how am I going to play like the next 3 turns, trying to figure out what you have. But this deck is basically just trying to punish fast play.
Interesting. Okay, so all right, so what does that mean for like how they play? Are they just so it's a lot of removals, it sounds like.
It's a lot of removal, and it's a lot of slowdown. And by slowdown, I mean things like Cone of Cold, which freeze your minions, Frost Nova, which freezes all your minions, Frost Bolts, which freeze your minions, Water Elemental, which freezes your minions. Basically just slowing the game down. They're trying to make the game last as long as possible where they can just gain a huge advantage and take over.
Okay, so when you're picking cards then to keep or draw, are you looking for cards that are going to somehow outrace that, or do you just have to accept the game's going to last forever and try and go with that?
Yeah, you don't want to try to outrace this deck. It's not going to happen. You want to try to keep... This is where you keep all of your big stuff. Like, this is where you use your hero power early game, and you use, like, maybe, like, your 3-4 casting cost stuff, and you keep that and toss everything else. Like, this is where I would keep... like 3 casting cost or higher minions, and I would ditch all my 2-in-1 stuff.
Okay. Would you go so far as to keep something like a Boulder Fist Ogre, like even that late?
Maybe. I mean, Boulder Fist Ogre is a pretty bad card to play in ranked. But
okay.
But I mean, like if I was playing how
about this? Kel'Thuzad. Would you hold on to that guy?
I would definitely hold on to him because I would want to play him that game. So like cards that like legendaries that you might not draw if you get rid of it again, those are the kind of cards that I would want. Because Kel'Thuzad is going to help you beat this deck. And if you never draw it and you lose and there's 10 cards left in your deck when you lost and one of them was Kel'Thuzad, you're going to feel really dumb that you threw it away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because this deck's not going to beat you really fast. It's not a very fast deck, so you don't have to worry about it just, ramping up against you.
Okay. So it's all in this one. So in some of the other ones like Druid, you didn't have to buy into their late game strategy, but Mage, you can't. You pretty much have to go with them into the late game.
Yeah, because if you play early game with this Mage, you're playing right into its deck. Like I was playing this deck against Zoo on ladder. It was the funnest thing in the world because I hate Zoo, and I was laughing so hard because they were trying so hard to put as many minions out as possible, and I would just completely crush them.
You're a cruel man.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it was... I've died to Zeus too many times. This is like the best anti-Zoo deck in the world.
Okay, and so this is the popular Mage deck. So, just to summarize, anything that's less than 2 mana, you just throw away and just hope you don't draw again, essentially?
Well, I mean... You're going to eventually draw it, but you're just trying to... You're trying to bait out as much as you can with this deck, because it just has so much removal and so many threats.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of... It doesn't have a lot... Another big card in this deck is Duplicate, so you kind of have to understand when they want to duplicate something and when they don't want to duplicate something. So you kind of have to outsmart them by not playing into their hands. So if they cast a Sludge Belcher and a Secret on the same turn, it's pretty obvious that that was a duplicate. So you don't want to just kill the Sludge Belcher because then they get 2 more Sludge Belchers.
Yeah.
You got to kind of... You can't play into its hands. You got to kind of outsmart it and force the Mage to cast cards they don't want to cast because they have to. So overwhelming your board with a bunch of minions is not what you want to do because they'll just destroy all the minions.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is you want to play big threats that they can't ignore.
Okay, so what would be a good example of that? Like, are we talking like 3-4 cost still?
Yeah, like Priest has a really good one with the Acolyte. What is it called?
Oh yeah, his class card.
Yeah, the Dark Cultist.
There you go.
Like Dark Cultist is a really good card that they can't really ignore. They have to deal with it somehow. Priest is actually a really good deck to play against this deck because it has a lot of things that you can't ignore, and you can thought steal their good cards. But basically, don't play a lot of minions, but when you do play minions, play good ones that they can't ignore, so they have to waste their spells on them.
Okay. Alright, let's jump to Paladin. What do we got popular in Paladin nowadays?
Paladin is crazy right now. Paladin's making a comeback. So what the Paladin deck wants to do is they want to get crazy card advantage from their big combos. And the biggest combo that they have is Equality plus Consecrate, or
Yeah.
Equality plus Wild Pyromancer. Even Equality plus Avenging Wrath is a big one. But basically, if you can get the Paladin to get rid of both their equalities, and you can still get board control after that, you pretty much win the game. Paladins have a really hard time with clearing the board, and the best way they can do it is with equality. So if you can find a way to bait out their equalities early, that's very good for you.
So is that a matter like the mage of keeping those cards that they can't ignore, or just trying to get card advantage cards?
Yeah, you're trying to basically not flood the board again. You're trying not to, like, if you have board control already, like, let's say you have a taunt minion, and you have a big minion, and you have, like, another minion that does something else, right? And then you still have 8 mana left. Like, it wouldn't be smart to throw Kel'Thuzad out there also, just to really overwhelm him. Because on his turn, he's just going to equality and consecrate and destroy all your creatures. And you're going to be left crying with nothing on the board.
Nobody likes that. Okay,
Yeah.
so when we're looking at the cards we want to keep, what does that mean?
Against this paladin, you
Yeah.
want to keep stuff that they have to deal with early. So you want to keep early stuff. You want to keep things that they have to... You want them to waste their consecrate. You want them to waste their equality. You want them to... And just because they killed your creatures doesn't mean it's bad for you. It's good for you. You have to think about it that way. It's good that they got rid of their consecration on turn 4, because they had to in order to keep the game going. When you play against a paladin, games are going to last a really long time, so you kind of just have to know that you're in for a long game.
Yeah, so you're playing the early threats to try and take out their big stuff. Get rid of their big threats so that late game...
Well, they don't really have...
doing-
They don't really have big threats early. Paladins have really small threats early on.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to overpower the game early, but you can't play too many. You can't commit too much to the board.
Yeah. So something like a Shade of Naxxramas seems like a great card to keep against Paladin, because you could throw that down on turn 3. It's a 2/2. That's a super tempting consecration target.
Yes, definitely. If you and they kind of have to. They kind of have to consecrate the Shade of Naxxramas, because otherwise it gets out of control and they can't deal with it.
Yeah, and they have to decide right away, because after the first turn, it's out of consecration range.
Yeah. And you want to play cards like Twilight Drake that can be like 4/10s or 4/9s, because that's a really juicy equality target.
Yeah. Do you ever try and go for like minions that have low health anyways, just to try and make equality useless, or is that too risky?
No, I mean, then you're just playing into their hands, because they don't have to deal with big minions. They have the equalities because they can't deal with big minions. So you have to play big minions to force them to cast the equalities.
Okay. And then you also have here Acolyte of Pain as well. So just trying to do card advantage early.
Card advantage early is good. I would always keep a Faceless Manipulator against a Paladin.
Okay, what are you hoping to snag with that?
They have so many big threats. Like, Paladin could drop a Sylvanas, it could drop a Kel'Thuzad, it could drop a Karen Bloodhoof. I mean,
and they have high tier paladins doing
Tyrion.
Blessing of Kings.
Guardian of the Kings.
No,
Yes.
Blessing of the Kings, the buff, like where they can buff it up and then you
Oh
can copy it.
no, not these paladins.
Okay.
They have Tyrion. So,
Oh wow. Yeah.
I mean, the Faceless Manipulator might sit in your hand for a while and not do much, but when they play Tyrion, you want to make sure that you have a Faceless Manipulator.
Yeah.
Or if they play Kel'Thuzad or Sylvanas, like, it's just Faceless Manipulator against Paladin is really good.
Okay. Now, one thing we actually haven't mentioned so far, maybe it's just because it has been important, are any of these classes we've talked about so far classes where if you have something like an Ironbeak Owl or a Silence effect, you hold on to that because you know you're going to need it eventually, or does that not really factor into it?
I think in all of these classes, except for like Face Hunter, you want to keep hold of your Silence.
Okay.
There's always a better Silence target. Like, don't unless your deck is going in for the kill for lethal, don't just silence a taunt just because you can get some extra damage in. Like,
Oh, sorry. I
hold
mean,
it.
when we're talking keeping cards at the beginning of the game.
I wouldn't keep at the beginning of the game.
Okay, just because you don't know.
The only thing that I would keep is like the Faceless Manipulator, because you know that's going to help you a great amount. You don't know if the silence is always going to help you a big amount.
Okay.
It could help you a little bit, but not as big as just straight copying their big threat.
Okay. So here, unlike the mage with Paladin, you are going to throw away your late game cards, right?
Yeah. Paladin, you got to come out strong. You got to come out early because you need them to get rid of your stuff with equality. You need them to waste the equalities, so when it does get to late game, they don't have them anymore.
Okay.
And it's going to get to late game because Paladins are slow.
Yeah. All right, let's do Priest, which is the one I'm actually most excited to hear you talk about, because Priest is my favorite class to play, and I want to hear what your plans are to trick me so I can counter-trick you in return.
So, Priest right now is crazy. Priest is out of control.
Yeah.
Priest is like... What happened with Priest is nobody played Priest, so then back at the offices, they were probably like, hey guys, nobody plays Priest. We should probably help them out a little bit. But as that exact same time, as that was happening, all of a sudden, Priest was getting insane. And then it was too late. They already made the cards, and then Naxxramas came out, which made Priest even more insane.
Yeah,
so it's like
I'm loving it.
So it's like they got buffed twice. Once because the meta changed, and twice because of the Naxxramas cards.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Priest,
I argued actually in our last episode that Priest got the best class card out of all the
yeah,
three.
they got. I mean, there's no downside. A 3/4 for 3 that gives 3 health when it dies. And come on, that's ridiculous. I bet you that card changes.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all.
The Dark Cultist is what we were talking about. So, Priest right now is a very fast-paced but also control-y deck. It's like the best of both worlds. Priest is very fast and it's very good control. So
what is it that's giving it its speed? It's not charge minions, is it?
No, it's Undertaker, Zombie Chow, Haunted Creeper, Dark Cultist, which all have Death Rattle. It's...
Oh yeah, and it can turn the Zombie Creeper into a deal 5 damage.
Yeah, with Auchenai Soul Priest. It has the Northshire Cleric, which can draw cards. It has Circle of Healing. Circle of Healing with the Northshire Cleric actually triggers all of the minions that got healed.
Yeah.
Or it's control-y because it has Auchenai Soul Priest and Circle of Healing, which is a Flame Strike on turn 4. It has...
That also hits your own minions, to be fair.
Yeah, but it has Sludge Belchers. It has Cabal Shadow Priests that are control-y that can take away your minions. I mean, the deck has everything. It is so annoying to play against.
All right, so what are you doing to counter? What kind of cards are you keeping?
This is when you keep the best thing that your deck does. There isn't a great thing to counter the Priest. You're just going to have to outplay the Priest. I mean, you're just going to have to keep mulligan for the cards that are the best for your deck. So if your deck is a really good tempo deck, mulligan to try to get those cards. If your deck's a really good control deck, mulligan to try to get those good control cards. You're not trying to outplay the Priest right now. Right now, you're just trying to deal with it.
Yeah, because the Priest, like you mentioned, is kind of doing a little bit of everything. So you're not trying to stop something in particular. They're just kind of coming at you hard.
And the Priest is waiting for you to do something. The Priest is like trying to see how you play, and then they're playing off of that. So if you don't play anything on your turn 1, on their turn 1, they're going to start going all aggro. But if on your turn 1 you start going all aggro, then they're going to slow it down and wait till they can like get a bunch of creatures like with the Auchenai Soul Priest out at once and just kill everything.
Interesting.
So it's really like you gotta. I think playing against a priest, a really good priest player, is the hardest thing on Hearthstone right now.
So one thing that we talked about, I mentioned I run Shadow Word Pain in my priest deck a while back, and you said like nobody's really using that anymore.
Yeah, nobody's running Shadow Word Pains anymore.
Okay.
I think Hearthstone has actually slowed down a lot.
Yeah.
To where Shadow Word Pains are not as useful as Shadow Word Deaths.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's so easy to deal with early game now with like cards like Sludge Belcher. I mean, it's just so easy to slow the game down.
Okay. So do you see any value in minions that hit that sweet spot of 4, like Chillwind Yeti or anything like that, that kind of avoids the priest, or do you just not even have to worry if it's less than 5?
I think Chillwind Yeti is really good against Priest because it doesn't die to Akanai Soul Priest combo. It doesn't die to Shadow or Death. And the only thing it really dies to is Holy Fire, and not every priest runs Holy Fire.
Okay.
So they kind of
Interesting.
have to just run their dudes into it to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I think Yeti is one of the best cards against priest.
Okay, and then
So-
I assume the same would be for Bloodhoof.
Same with Cairn.
Cairn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get a Cairn and then Faceless Manipulator the Cairn, or like
spe-
duplicate it. If you're playing Mage and you can duplicate a Cairn against priest, you're in a really good spot.
Yeah. And I assume then Spectral Knight as well, because that has the same 4, and actually it can't be hit by Holy Fire and stuff like that too.
Spectral Knight is probably the best card against priest.
Okay. So those are the sorts of cards, if you have them in your deck, that you're looking for.
A good counter to priest is Druid with Spectral Knights and Yetis, and a good way to cast them fast. That's a really good deck to play.
Okay. So are you tossing back any minion that has 5 or more damage, because you just know it's going to get nuked, even if you get it out before they're just going to kill it?
No, because not every priest runs 2 Shadow or Deaths. Some only run 1. And so if you get rid of one of them, you should have enough threats in your deck that you shouldn't worry too much about it, and you should be able to just play another threat the next turn.
Okay. So you're actually keeping big minions if you draw them on turn 1?
I would keep at least 1.
Okay. Cool. So just because I'm curious, are these priests running mind control too? Is that something you have to be worried about once it gets super late?
Yeah, 1 mind control is something that you have to kind of worry about if the deck wasn't very fast. If the priest deck seemed like it was a little fast, like it had a lot of smaller minions like zombie chows and undertakers and loot hoarders, they probably didn't leave enough room in there for the mind control. But if you didn't see any of that, if you saw no early game at all, and they were just playing like Injured Blade Masters and Akanai Soul Priests, and that's it, then most likely they're running Thought Steals and Mind Controls and some of the more control-y cards.
Cool. Alright, let's look at Rogue, my nemesis. Is it still Miracle Rogue? I mean, that's gotta be.
Yeah. I mean, the Leroy was a big part of Miracle Rogue, but Miracle Rogue still easily wins without Leroy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just crush an opponent with Conceal. They're running 2 Conceals now, where the Leroy version only ran 1 Conceal. Now Conceal is a huge part of Miracle, so they run 2 of them. So basically they do their stupid little combo where they throw their cards out, and it's really easy to do, and they draw a bunch of cards, and then they finish it with Conceal. And then you're sitting there on your turn with your thumb up your butt going, well, I can't kill any of the stuff because I can't target it. And then on their turn, they do it again, and they go crazy and then kill you.
And then conceal again.
And then they conceal again. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wow. So essentially you have to beat the Miracle Rogue before they can get to that point.
You kind of have to tempo them really fast. You're trying to beat Miracle Rogue quickly. Because every single time they have to use a preparation or a removal spell before they even have their Gadget Zan out, that's one step closer to you winning. Because they're trying to keep all of that stuff until they play Gadget Zan Auctioneer.
Yeah.
So if you come out early enough and fast enough, and they've wasted their preparation to play a spell that they don't have mana for, or they've wasted their eviscerates to get rid of your creatures or their backstabs, that's really good for you. Because by the time they play their Gadget Zan Auctioneer, they probably have a handful of minions. They probably have used all their spells.
Yeah. So is this similar then to Paladin, where you're just trying to play early threats that they have to answer?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
It's
So
definitely something that you want to go early against.
okay, so you're looking again for the... I mean, would you even put Undertaker in that group?
I
okay.
think Undertakers are great.
Yeah, Undertakers, the
Great starting
Shades
card.
of Naxxramas, that sort of stuff.
Shades of Naxxramas is a great card. Undertaker's a great card. I think.
How do you feel about saying like, would you keep a Harvest Golem? It's a
Yeah,
sticky
Harvest-
minion, but
Harvest-
they don't really have to answer it, do they?
Harvest Golem's good, but Rogue can kill Harvest Golems easily because of their weapon.
Oh,
So
yeah.
even if they kill the Harvest Golem, they usually just finish it off with the weapon attack.
Yeah.
But definitely early game stuff is good. I mean, anything that you can do to disrupt the Rogue. Because their game plan is to hope that you don't play a lot of stuff, so then they can just go off with their gadgets in.
Yeah. So then in this case, you're throwing back anything that's like 6 or more mana, right?
Yeah. Now there is another rogue. There's Tempo Rogue, which is all about board control and mid-range minions. So you don't want if you have a crazy fast early start, you're just playing into their hands because that's what their whole deck is built around. Their deck is built around controlling your early game and taking over the mid game. And it's hard to tell if you're playing a Miracle Rogue or a Tempo Rogue until the first couple of turns go by. So you kind of have to see if what you're playing against, if you see more than one of the same deck in your play session, then you kind of have to just go for that and be like, okay, I hope I'm playing against Miracle.
Yeah.
Or I hope I'm playing against Tempo Rogue.
Is there anything that you want to keep against both of them that you could kind of hedge your bets?
I would say any solid minions. I mean, you kind of just have to keep solid creatures. Like a good one is Sludge Belcher. I always go back to that because he's just such a solid minion. Any type of, like, if you're running Earthring Farseers or if you're running Harvest Golems, I mean, those are just solid creatures or minions.
Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. What do you want to throw away? Yeah, all the slow stuff, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's do Shaman.
Shaman.
Because I don't know what Shamans are doing nowadays.
Dude,
is it just Bloodlust?
Shaman's my homeboy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. Teach me your Shaman secrets.
Shaman's the only class that I've gotten 12 wins with in Arena.
Nice. Dude, I got to 11. I don't
know,
think I actually
it's
got
tough.
to 12. It's so brutal.
I know. I've gotten to 11 before, too. It's brutal. Because you want to win that game so bad.
Yeah.
It's like you don't care about the 11 games you've won. You just want to win that one game.
Yeah, those cease to exist at that point.
Yeah. Shaman's going through a transitional period right now. I think there isn't a clear-cut great Shaman deck out there. I think there's still kind of cookie cutter, the same Shaman deck that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is just good. I think Shaman is good against Mage right now because Mage can ruin your day with a duplicate, and Shaman can ruin the Mage's day with a Hex.
Yeah.
So they can Hex and then kill the frog token, and then you've duplicated 2 frog tokens.
Wow. That's brutal. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
So that's good. But other than Mage, I mean, Shaman is just... I don't know. I would say Shaman's really weak right now.
Okay, are they still doing the thing? Because Shaman's deck has always been kind of like keep minions on the board, then do things that boost large number of minions. Is that still their trick?
Yeah, their trick is still to like kill you in one turn with a good Alakir play or a good Doom Hammer play, a good Bloodlust play. Shamans do a really good job with board control. Because they're able to get their totems out and you waste your stuff on their totems and then they use their real cards on your real cards. But I don't know. Shaman's just weird right now. I wouldn't suggest playing Shaman at all.
Okay.
And of course what's going to happen as soon as we record this, there's going to be some crazy
some
Shaman
amazing
deck
Shaman deck
that I haven't seen yet.
So if Shamans don't have a defined deck,
like I don't even have a Shaman deck. I have 9 slots to make decks, and then there's no Shaman.
And Shaman is your favorite.
And Shaman's my favorite. In Arena, Shaman's my favorite.
Yeah.
Shaman was my favorite in Ranked because it did really well against Zoo.
But now you have better options.
But now I have better options.
All right, so what are you doing when you're choosing which cards to keep and throw away. If you don't even know for sure what shamans are doing, can you kind of guess, or do you just is this another case where you just do your own thing, like against the priest?
I would keep my removal against shamans because shamans don't have a lot of threats at all. Like they have their feral spirits, they have their fire elementals,
Yeah.
and that's basically it. Like they'll play their flame tongue totem, which is why I would keep removal in my hand so you can get rid of it the turn they play it. Or if they play their feral spirits and you'll be able to get rid of their wolves. That's what I would keep. I would keep a hand that's good against like a good removal hand. So
Okay.
like keep your frost bolts, keep your wraths, keep your lightning bolts if you're playing shaman also. Just keep your early removal.
Okay, so early removal and then kind of other cheap minions, like because you
Yeah.
don't need to hold on to late game stuff. Or
Just
focus on
know,
anything in particular.
you have to worry about their lightning storms. Always worry about their lightning storms.
Yeah.
But just know that you're running more minions than they are. So every time that you remove one of their minions, it hurts them really badly.
No, okay. Because they're running a lot of their spells, I assume, like lightning bolt and
They're
stuff
running
like that.
lightning bolts. They're running
Lava burst.
Lava burst. They're running axe. They're running the earth shocks. They're running just so many spells. Just a ton of spells.
Are they running forked lightning?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe
That one
the
always
new
seems to
meta.
go up and down in popularity.
Yeah.
It's the only gold shaman card I have though, so I always want to use it. Looks sweet.
I've seen them use one ice blast or whatever it's called. Ice
Oh,
frost shock.
frost shock. Yeah.
One frost shock can be devastating. Because if they're planning on killing you in a turn and then you frost shock them, and it could be either like the dude so you can't attack with your weapon, or it could just be like a big minion that you planned on killing them with. The one frost shock can ruin your day.
Okay.
A crazy shaman deck that I've seen is they use Ancestral Spirit.
And reincarnate.
And reincarnate.
Yeah.
Or like they reincarnate their Sylvanas. So they cast Sylvanas, cast reincarnate on it to steal one of your minions, and then they get their Sylvanas back.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't really like emphasize silence or something to counter that. You just kind of have to let them do that, right? When you're picking
Yeah.
your cards.
Yeah, that's why I would keep on to my removal.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. What about Warlock? Is Zoo still the deck? I assume people are running.
No.
No. Oh.
Dude, Zoo,
Handlock.
Handlock. Dude, Zoo is done. I'm so glad. People that run Zoo and Murloc still are like people that have never understood that there's a thing called the internet and they can look up new decks.
Hey, some people just like playing on their own. And
Every single
doing
time,
what they like.
every single time I play a Murloc player, I just sigh, I do a big face palm, and I hit my forehead really hard, and I slam my face into the keyboard.
What? This
hate-
doesn't sound healthy.
I do not like Murlocs, and the fact that people are out there still playing Murlocs, you need to stop. If you play Murlocs and you're listening to this, you need to stop. There's better decks out there. Life gets better than this. You don't need to play Murlocs anymore.
But what if I could get these people to write in and say they're still playing Murloc decks? Would you smash your face on the keyboard for every single person that did that?
Yes, and I would.
Yes. You don't get to say anything else. You've already agreed. Everybody write in, whether you play Murloc or not.
Oh my God.
Send me an email or a Twitter, ajosh@outlook.com or @jaugustine. I'm going to compile a list and present to Adam, and I will force him to hit his head on a keyboard for every single one, and we'll videotape it or something.
No, you're not going to get anything because nobody plays Murlocs. Nobody's that thick in the head to still play Murlocs.
Some people still play Murloc. I'll go make a Murloc deck right now and
Oh my
play
God.
it.
Murloc decks are like people who were born in the middle of like Colorado in a small town and they never left.
Whoa.
They never left. They
What's
don't
this
even
Colorado bashing?
Okay,
Colorado's
okay,
pretty
fine.
cool.
Wyoming. I don't know. Pick a really boring state where nothing really happens.
I don't know. I've never been to Wyoming. Maybe it's this awesome party state where everyone's riding around on scooters all the time.
I'm sorry if you're from Wyoming, if you're listening to this, but basically it's people who were born in a very small town in Wyoming and they've never left. And they don't realize that there's New York, they don't realize that there's Seattle or California or Hawaii, and they've never tried to go anywhere. That's why they still just play Murlocs. They don't understand that there's all these amazing decks to play. They're just stuck in their ways, and they play Murlocs because it was the very first deck that ever came out, and they haven't changed.
There you go, Adams. Get with the times, you loser rant.
That was my soapbox on
This
Murlocs.
is no longer the Happy Hearthstone. This is the Angry Hearthstone.
That was my soapbox on
There you
Murlocs.
go.
All right.
All right.
There's-
So stop being an idiot and a moron and the filth of the human race.
and play something else.
You can play Murloc if you like. I'm gonna go
Nobody likes you if you play Murlocs. You probably have no friends.
I'm gonna make a Murloc deck right now.
Oh,
I
God,
got a Cold Light Seer. Bam, buddy.
You're not
It's
going to
going
do well.
in. Tide Hunter and Cold Light Seer. It's guaranteed to win.
Dude, I played a Murloc Shaman deck the other day up against one. And I just wanted to tell the guy, like, what are you doing?
This is why there isn't chat in the game, you know, because you'd be like, "Where are you from? Wyoming?"
Oh, I would just
Go to New
ask
York,
him.
jerk, and then log out, and he'd be like, "I have no clue what just happened."
And, like, it was like they're golden Murlocs. Like, this guy really.
Well, that's
went-
why he's still playing it, because he invested tons of dust into it.
Oh, God.
All right. So let's talk about the non-Murloc Warlock. I'll try to never mention the M word
Okay.
again.
So, this is probably one of the most solid, synergized decks in Hearthstone. When you talk about synergy in card games is huge. And this deck probably has the most synergy with all 30 of its cards working together in one common goal. And that is Handlock. Handlock is insanely crazy with synergy.
All right. So for people that don't know what Handlock is, can you just summarize it in like a couple sentences? Yeah.
Handlock is about keeping a lot of cards in your hand, controlling the game with huge minions and big removal. So you're running every big giant. You're running 2 Mountain Giants, 2 Molten Giants. You're running big cards like Lord Jiraxis. You're running Twilight Drakes. You're running Faceless Manipulators. And then you're running all of these taunts to taunt up your huge minions so they can't get past. Now, the part where it gets crazy is the hero power of Warlock is pay 2 life, draw a card. Well, that plays right into what it's trying to do, which is get down to low life so you can play your Molten Giants for free and then get back up to full health with Lord Jiraxis or Earthen Ring Farseers. So it's basically using its hero ability to draw cards because you're trying to get a bunch of cards in your hand so you can cast your Mountain Giants, and at the same time that you're getting more cards in your hand to cast your Mountain Giants, you're losing health to help cast your Molten Giants.
And making Twilight Drake potentially stronger.
And making Twilight Drake stronger. It's like everything that you're doing is helping your deck. It's just insanely good. And it's kind of scary because there's turns where you go down to like 9 or 8 health, but then on your next turn, you're casting 2 Molten Giants, a Defender of Argus, and an Earthen Ring Farseer to bring yourself back up to 12.
Would you say that this is the most extreme deck, that you're living on the edge?
It's pretty extreme. I think that this deck is really fun to play. If you want a challenge, like if you've been pretty bored with playing like basically
Murloc decks, shall we say?
Yeah, if you're tired of playing Murloc decks where you just have no brain capacity at all and you just you just throw Murloc after Murloc out, you're like, oh, I have 3 mana, let me throw Murlocs out that cost 3 or 2 and 1. If you actually want to use some brain power,
there's nothing wrong with a Murloc deck.
Play Handlock. Handlock will change your life, and it's really fun to play even after the Leroy combo's gone. It's still really fun to play.
All right,
you can basically get rid of. It basically has good matchups against every deck, and you can get rid of every threat.
All right, so if you're facing a Warlock, what can you keep? What can you throw away? It's because the way you're painting it, it sounds like you're screwed. You might as well just resign. But there has to be something you can do to try and counter this, right?
Yes, silence definitely screws up Handlock. because they get to such low health that they're relying on their taunts at the end of the game. So if you can find a way to silence the taunts and smash them in for lethal, it's really good.
So would you keep like an Iron Beak Owl?
Iron Beak Owls, keep your Spellbreakers. The 4/3 guy.
Yeah.
Definitely keep early game stuff. Like, I've been able to just straight up beat a handlock because he let me get him down so low, and then he doesn't have the combo. Like, he doesn't even have the cards to play the big double Molten Giants with the Defender of Argus.
Yeah, he was hoping he'd draw him and just never did.
And he just never did, so you just end up just killing him. So you want to be fast against a handlock, because handlocks are very slow.
You go
like
fast
for the first 4 turns, they don't really do much. Like, they don't really cast something until turn 4 or 5. Sometimes they'll cast something on turn 3. Sometimes they'll get the good combo with the Ancient Watcher, and they'll be able to coin out Ancient Watcher turn 1, and then Iron Beak Owl silence it turn 2, which is kind of sucks for you. But for the most part, they're a pretty slow deck. Their turn 2 is tap to draw a card. Their turn 3 is tap to draw a card, and then they finally do something on turn 4.
Okay. So, so what are you throwing away then? I mean,
you're throwing away slow stuff.
Okay.
You're not going to out slow the handlock.
Yeah.
You definitely want a fast start.
And when you're going fast, does that ever scare them into not using their hero power, or they just want to keep getting low?
Never.
Okay.
They could care less. You can deal 10 damage to them in the first 4 turns, and they'll still hero power.
Okay. So going for card advantage or something isn't really a viable strategy either.
Nope. They're basically trying to get as low as possible, as fast as possible, so they can throw down their Molten Giants, cast their Mountain Giants, and then start to recover from there.
So are you throwing back stuff like Acolyte of Pain or Loot Hoarder?
Yes, Loot Hoarder, because they run Mortal Coils, and Mortal Coils will just destroy the Loot Hoarder and give them their card back. But Acolyte of Pain is not the worst card to keep. I mean, it's definitely not great, but I would try to keep. This is definitely a good Undertaker deck. Like, if you have a fast Undertaker deck, this would do really well against Handlock. Because keep in mind, Handlock only has 2 straight removal spells. They run 2 Siphon Souls. So those are they can only really remove 2 big threats. Everything else they have to use with AoE with their Shadow Flames or their Hellfires.
They don't run Soulfire?
They run 2 Soulfires.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, like,
I thought you said Siphon Soul.
Siphon Soul, they run 2 Soulfires and 2 Siphon Souls.
Okay.
The Siphon Souls can just straight up remove anything, no matter what it is. But the Soulfires and the removal, you can't really destroy big stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Handlock's just really good right now. I think Handlock is probably one of the best decks out there on the ladder right now. There's probably somebody getting Legend with it right now as we speak.
Somewhere. And hopefully they're beating a Murloc deck.
They're definitely not playing a Murloc deck. They're not playing against one anyways.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So last class, let's look at the Warrior. Control Warrior has pretty much fallen out of favor lately, right?
I would say Control Warrior has made a resurgence.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't been playing at high tiers, but I've
Control
read a lot of
people
saying Control is gone.
You were correct about a month ago.
Oh.
Control Warrior, nobody played, but now it's coming back because the games have slowed down, and Control Warrior just is the best at just sticking around, and you can't kill them because they gain so much health from their armor. And then, like, you're on fatigue, and they're on fatigue, and then they finally cast a Gorehowl, and then the next turn they cast an Alexstrasza, and then they hit you with their Gorehowl, and then you're dead. Or, like, they cast their Gromash finally. I mean, they just have so many huge threats. Like, here, I have a Handlock deck, I have a Control Warrior deck. Look at what I have. I have a Ragnaros, a Gromash Hellscream, a Gorehowl, a Cairn Bloodhoof, and like a million weapons, and the rest is just removal and control.
Wow, so you're not dropping any early minions at all?
Well, yeah, I'm dropping Armor Smith.
Oh.
or Acolyte of Pain, or Cruel Taskmaster. But I mean, like, those are... I'm basically stalling the game out to my big
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay. So I mean, it makes sense that you'd probably just throw back any removal cards you have
Yeah.
when you're playing against them.
I'm actually going to take out Unstable Ghoul, because the only reason why I had Unstable Ghoul was to anti-Hunter's Blood Unleash the Hounds.
Oh, yeah.
But now Unstable Ghoul is not the greatest card. I can probably put back in a second Acolyte of Pain, or I can maybe go with the double Brawl play.
Oh, man. Do it. Keep them guessing.
The double Brawl play might be good.
All right, so when you're playing against this Warrior Control deck, is this like Mage where you simply can't race them? You have to go to late game with them?
Yeah, you're not gonna do anything early with Warrior, or they're not gonna do anything to you. You can probably... What you need to do when you play against Control Warrior is you need to let them not get 1,000,000 armor. So anything that you can do to help them not get 1,000,000 armor is what you're trying to do.
Isn't that sort of being aggro?
Yes, in a way it is. But, I mean, if you're being really aggro and then they drop an Armor Smith and then they play Whirlwind and then they just did like 1,000,000 damage to everything, and then they just gained like a bunch of health from their Armor Smith. I don't know, it's just tough.
So what are you looking for? Are you looking for something like Harvest Golem that's going to stick on the board and you can just hopefully get a few turns in, as opposed to something that's like a charge, like the Wolf Rider?
I think Wolf Rider. Well, they do run the Cruel Taskmasters, but I think going ultra fast is good against Control Warrior.
Okay.
Because especially if it's hard for them to get rid of minions. It's hard for them to really get rid of a lot of minions because they have their Fiery War Axes, which then they have to slam their face into it, so you're getting rid of their armor, and they have their Cruel Taskmasters, but that's about it. I mean, it's
okay, because you said you had a ton of removal in your deck. Is that just like late game removal?
Well, I have a Whirlwind, 2 Fiery War Axes, a Cleave, a Slam, a Death Spite, a Brawl, and a Gore Howl. But most of that is weapon-based.
Yeah.
And weapon-based removal means they have to slam into your face, their face into it, which means they're taking damage, which means they're getting rid of their armor.
So even something like a Leper Gnome is actually pretty decent, too.
Leper Gnome is decent because it does the 2 damage, even when it dies. You just got to watch out for Cruel Taskmaster, because Cruel Taskmaster can ruin your day.
Okay. All right, and then...
I would recommend more like the Scientist, Mad Scientist.
Okay.
Or Haunted Creeper. It's a good one.
Okay. What do you think about Taunt to try and keep their weapons in check?
No, they're not. They're not so worried about getting through. They're
Okay.
more worried about just getting through their deck, getting a bunch of armor, and then controlling your board.
Okay. So then, are you... I mean, you have to hold on to something like an Acidic Swamp Ooze, right? Anything that takes care of weapons.
For sure. I mean, if you're running Acidic Swamp Ooze or Harrison Jones, always keep it against a Control Warrior because they're running so many weapons. Like, at least 5 weapons they're running.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. At the very least 4.
Yeah. You will get a chance to use that.
Yeah.
And it's extremely powerful when you do use it. Because a lot of times warriors are relying on those weapons. Like that is how they keep the board safe.
If you can ooze a Gore Howl, you probably
Oh
won.
my gosh, yeah. That's the dream right there.
That is the dream. No, the dream is when they play Lord Jiraxis and then you Harrison Jones Lord Jiraxis.
Oh, that is too cruel. All right, so what kind of cards are you throwing away? Are you throwing away late game stuff because you just want to try and hit early?
Yeah, you're trying to establish an early presence for them to either deal with because they have to deal with it. You're trying to get the cards out of their hand, and you're trying to keep their armor low.
Cool.
I've played against some Control Warriors where they used all their removal on my early stuff, and then they're just stuck with 3 cards in their hand, and then they can't really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so there you have it. There's some tips for picking the right cards and throwing the bad cards away for each class. Hopefully it makes sense. If you have questions, I'm sure Adam would be happy to help. We'll have all his contact info at the end.
Ping me on Twitter at @rklager.
Woot. Let's jump into a question, actually, because we have a nice backlog of questions that got sent while we were taking a break from the show.
Okay.
Nate Montgomery, one of the first listeners of the show, actually, a very cool guy.
Probably plays Murlocs.
I don't know. I'll let him speak for himself, but if he plays Murlocs, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Show. And it's the Happy Hearthstone, so we're keeping it happy.
Okay, sorry.
Right. Nate says, what's the best new class card in your opinion? What was done well in the expansion, and what do you think they could have done better? I already kind of mentioned that I think Dark Cultist is the best, but I think Web Spinner could be up there too.
I think Dark Cultist is much better than Web Spinner.
Okay.
Web Spinner is very hit or miss. You can get a parrot. You can get a hungry crab. You can get an angry chicken.
See, to me,
it's not very reliable.
I've been running an Undertaker Hunter deck. That's been kind of my Death Rattle deck has been Hunter. And like in that, oh man, it's just so good.
I mean, it feels awesome when you get a King Crush or like a really good Savannah High main or something. But for the most part, there's more worse beasts than good beasts.
Ooh, I don't know if that's true. It might be close to 50-50. I don't know.
It's probably close to 50-50.
There's really only like 3 beast cards that I'm really disappointed to get. Most of them are kind of like, oh, okay. And then every now and then you get a great one, and every now and then you get a really dumb one. Like, yeah, that Captain's Parrot just makes me kill myself every time.
I mean, now you can get a Starving Buzzard, and that's bad.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
You can get a Young Dragon Hawk, a Bloodfin Raptor, a Hungry Crab, an Angry Chicken. I mean, are you really going to be excited when you get the Silverback Patriarch? Or even like a Core Hound, which is a 9/5, just massive thing that does nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. There's plenty of bad ones, but I mean, there's plenty of good ones too. Like, I'm going to be excited if I get the Stranglethorn Tiger, or if I get a Haunted Creeper if it's early, or Savannah High Main.
I guess the point is it's too reliant on RNG for it to be reliable. But it's a good card. I'm not going to say it's a bad card. It's a 1/1-for-1, which has an upside, because you get another card out of it.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I'm never going to craft King Crush. I don't want that card, but so this is a nice perk when I get it that way.
All right.
So what else besides Dark Cultist do you think could contend for the best class card?
What else besides Dark Cultist?
Yeah. Is there anything else?
I think Duplicate is insanely good.
Okay, yeah.
Duplicate basically brought Mage back from the depths. Like single-handedly just brought them back to the forefront of ladder and the best cards. It's good in Arena, it's good in Constructed. It's super annoying because Mage has so many secrets, so when they play a secret, they'll play probably a shitty minion to test if it's Mirror Entity, and then they'll attack you with a shitty minion to test if it's Vaporize, and then they'll cast a spell to test if it's Counterspell, and then it's like, shit, well, what is it? And then they finally kill the creature, and then they have to deal with 2 more, so even if they've triggered it, now it's even worse because now they have to deal with 2 things. Yeah. I mean, Duplicate is just amazing.
Okay, all right. I'm on board with that. How do you feel about Avenge, the Paladin secret?
I think Avenge is really good.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've played with it, and nobody ever expects it.
Yeah. Everyone attacks with their cheap 2 health minion or whatever.
Well, it ruins or completely ruins their plans. They're like, okay, you have a 1/1 and a 3/3. Okay, so I'm going to slam the 3/3 into this, and then I'm going to slam my 2/3 into the 1/1. And so then they have it all planned out in their head. So then they attack, and then sometimes they just do it too soon because they're just overzealous, and they'll do both moves before the secret even goes off.
Yeah.
And then the Avenge goes on the 1/1, and then it just kills their 3/2, and they're like,
I'm guilty of that. I actually quit one game because I forget what it was, but I did something like that. I can't remember which minion I killed, but it was like the minion that was key to my strategy at the time, and I was just like, okay, this is done. Yeah, it's clearly too late. I should go to bed.
I think Avenge is going to see some play. I think the paladin decks are really goofy right now. They're kind of weird, slow paced, but I think
Yeah.
someone's going to come up with a good fast paced Avenge deck, or a good fast paced paladin deck that has Avenge in it.
Yeah. All right, I'm on board too. But I do agree. I think Dark Cultist is still the best. Do you agree?
Yeah, there's just
Okay.
it's just the best. It's just the perfect card.
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
So what about? Oh, go ahead.
I mean, there's just no better 3-drop in
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
other than maybe a, freaking, what am I blanking on this? Animal Companion, and then you get the 4/4
Yeah.
taunt.
Yeah. But then you have to get lucky to get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Half the time you're getting the Leok.
Exactly.
All right, so how about good and bad for the expansion? We talked about this a lot last week, so I won't say too much. But one thing I mentioned, or I didn't mention it, I really like that they added like fun new win conditions like Stalag and Fugan. It's not, for the hyper ranked play, but it's something fun to mess around with in casual. That's not just it's another minion.
I think Stalag and Fugan are actually pretty good. I think in the right deck they can be playable.
Okay, I like that. Well, so wait, let me make sure I get the names right because I don't want to say the wrong one. The 4/7 I love. The 7/4.
The 4/7's the one you want to draw first.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get rid of and it clears some stuff off the table. And then when the 7/4 comes down, they have to kill it because it can't just leave a 7/4 on the board, and then you get your 11/11.
Yes, good. Yeah. Yeah, I've actually been running it in my priest deck just for fun. I don't know if it's great.
It could be good in a shaman deck, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I've seen that where they reincarnate it.
Yeah.
It gets dirty fast.
It could be good in a priest deck, too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like that they added fun cards like that. I think the thing that I'm the most impressed with is the AI challenges, the heroic ones.
Mm-hmm. Just
I
how
mean,
hard they are?
Yeah, there's some that I still haven't beaten. Like, I know exactly how to beat the deck. I've built the deck that beats it, and I still can't do it. It's just like, they've made some really hard challenges.
Yeah.
They haven't gotten to the level that Magic did yet. Like, Magic Duels of the Planeswalker has some really awesome ones.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's one where they cast the same card every turn. And so that's what it is, but you have to figure out how to beat it.
Interesting.
And so they're just casting the same card every single turn. So that's kind of a fun. I mean, it's basically the same thing. They're getting closer, but there's definitely some ones on Magic Online. I mean, Magic Duels of the Planewalker that I think were a little more clever, a little more fun too.
So is that what you're looking forward to with the next expansion? If and when they do something like this again, just a little more clever mechanics?
Oh, I think
stuff?
it's great. Like, they didn't even have to do this. Naxxramas could have literally just been cards that you find in booster packs, and it would have been the same end result, what we have now with all of the metagame. But the fact that they made it this fun thing that you can, like, go through and play AI and unlock the cards, I think is just awesome.
Yeah.
It was just fluff that we got as a bonus for just being fans.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I wish it was a little more replayable, right? I wish there was a reason to go back and play them again. But yeah, it is like you said, they didn't have to do it, and it is really awesome.
Never good enough for you, Josh.
Yeah.
It's
Hey, he
never good enough.
Nate Montgomery, he asked what was done well and what do we think they could have done better, which I changed it to what do I hope they do for next time, right? Like, I hope they add some sort of replayable thing that I can do and get gold or whatever.
I, as a game designer, understand why they did not do this, but I am so mad that I can't just buy a single.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want to be able to just buy a Ysera,
Yeah.
But I totally get why they didn't do it.
Hey, who knows with the next card expansion?
No, that means
they
they have to introduce a whole marketplace, and they have to introduce trading, and
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they don't have to, but I mean, like,
They would want to.
they would lose a lot of money because they make a lot of money from people constantly buying booster packs.
Yeah.
So if I could just buy the card, I'm not buying booster packs. But we'll see. Maybe one day.
Who knows? Plus,
I think they might have to eventually, because it's going to get to a point where you can't just. They're going to have so many cards, like you kind of have to just buy them. Like, were they going to throw it into the card pool with all the booster packs, or are they just going to always keep it separate?
Yeah.
They could just always keep it separate, I guess, with their own little adventure wings.
Yeah. All right, let's look at some sweet iTunes reviews that got left for us while we were away. Because last episode went so long we didn't even get to read them. This one's already long, but we're reading them anyways, so deal with it, Adam.
Okay, I'm board. On board.
All right. And try not to insult anybody.
I
in these
will
reviews.
not. I'm sorry. Sorry if I insulted any Murloc players from Wyoming.
So yeah. So now you're apologizing after blatantly calling them out.
Yep.
All right. Well, you can insult this guy's spelling. He says, Arcan JL says, education. I don't learn more with this podcast than any other. When I think he meant to say that he does learn more, or else he's just leaving a review to insult us.
He's like 5 stars. I hate your podcast.
I hate your podcast.
Thank you for letting me insult you.
Yeah, he says thank you so much. Whereas Thera says great info for new Hearthstone players. These guys, I think they mean you and me, Adam, clearly, are great. Excellent production values, good sound. The host provides tips and advice for new players as well as experienced arena addicts. I'm slowly getting hooked on the game, and these guys are enablers.
Wow.
Curse them. I added that on.
People actually listen to this? I thought this was just something that you wanted me to do because you were like bored.
Yeah, you thought that was just a private Skype call between
I
each other.
I thought you were just trying to get like some private Hearthstone information out of me.
Trying, yeah. If I call it a podcast, you don't charge for these tips.
Oh, I
see. Just get it for free.
So sneaky.
All right, HT Owner, also getting free podcast tips from Adam, says, very cool. Really enjoy, guys. A must listen if you like Hearthstone. And who doesn't? Let's be honest. Travissimo, one of the best account names I've heard in a while, says, super fantastic Happy Hearthstone. Was looking for a nice podcast to break me in on CCGs and introduce me to the mechanics and thought process needed to play a fun game like Hearthstone. I happened on this wonderful and informative, entertaining podcast with tons of character to boot. Thanks for making such a fantastic podcast. Thanks for listening to such a fantastic podcast, Travissimo.
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's no Travissimo.
It's no Manascrewed.
No Manascrewed, that's true. Our sweet Magic the Gathering podcast.
If you like this podcast, Josh and I did another podcast called Manascrewed
2 years ago. It'll be extremely relevant.
Old Magic information.
Yeah. If you really care about Gatecrash, a set that came out wherever, we did a review. You can listen.
Oh man, there's a lot of listeners. No iTunes reviews yet for that.
That podcast was fun because we did it in the same room, so you get that synergy of sitting across from each other while we're eating Chinese food.
That podcast was fun because all we had was Magic. Well, now we have Hearthstone. So.
That's true. Yeah, we've moved on Magic. We're sorry.
I remember when you were telling me about Hearthstone while we were playing Magic, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Nothing's gonna be better than Magic.
It's like, just you wait, buddy. It's Blizzard. They make good games. They will make it.
I was definitely wrong. All right.
Now you learned. All right. Lancelot, who's actually a really cool guy. He talked to me a bunch over. He discovered the show while we were on break, and he sent me like a bunch of messages because he went through and listened to all the old all the old episodes, and was giving feedback on all of them. It's really cool. So he's a cool guy. He says, Hearthstone joy! Over the past year, I've been mulling over the idea of converting from Magic the Gathering to Hearthstone. What? Just like Adam. It wasn't until last week I took the plunge, and by doing so, searching iTunes for the best-rated podcast. To my amazement, the first one I picked was my favorite, and I quickly fell in love with quickly fell in love with the geek humor, lightheartedness, fun, and super informative show that Josh and his cohorts have put together. Whether I'm at work, at the gym, or in the car, Happy Hearthstone has been playing nonstop for the past week. Can't wait for the new episode. Great job, guys. All right, Adam.
All right, let's be honest, Lancelot. You didn't go to the gym. Okay, you don't have to say whether you're at work, at the gym, or in the car, because we all know that Magic players and Hearthstone players don't go to the gym.
Oh, come on, Adam. What?
Second of all,
just because you don't go to the gym doesn't mean that you need to assume that other people are unhealthy.
Second of all, I am just like Lancelot because I did make the plunge and converted from Magic to Hearthstone. So there's no shame in that. I knew right away the first time I played Hearthstone that it was a really great game and it was something that I'm going to play for a long time. And it was I just knew it. I mean, people who play Magic, I think, just know this when they start playing Hearthstone. They just go, oh no, this is going to take up a lot of my time. Because it's Hearthstone is basically a game that Magic players have always wanted. Magic players have always wanted, and you guys out there that have played Magic for a long time know this, you've always wanted a game that feels like you're playing the cards. And that's exactly what Hearthstone does.
Yeah, where they roar and talk and smash onto the screen.
Like they come to life. I was super jealous of Yu-Gi-Oh! When it came out. I was like, no fair, they get a TV show.
Yeah. All right, so we need a pop quiz here, because he says, it's Sir Lancelot, so it has to, I'm assuming it's a dude. Okay. Sir Lancelot says he's either listening at work, at the gym, or in the car. Right now, this second, when Sir Lancelot is listening to this part of the show, which one of those three?
Then he's definitely not doing squats. I'm gonna say he's at work.
I'm gonna say in the car. I'm betting on a long commute for Sir Lancelot. He might still be on a horse as a knight, and it could be a long commute.
This is what's gonna happen. You're gonna send out your tweet that the show is live. And then he's going to see it at work, and he's not going to be able to wait with excitement. He's going to click that Twitter link so fast and just immediately start listening. And his productive workday is gone.
Sure, but is he going to make it 1 hour and 35 minutes into the show to reach this point before he has to leave work?
Oh, he's going to not even move from his seat. He's so excited that
the workday will be over, and he'll just be sitting there in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Manager trying to kick him out, but he's just staying. All right, so Lancelot, when you listen to this, I got to know, what are we going to bet, Adam? You got to craft me something.
I will buy you Sotos.
Okay, that's a deal.
And if you're right, you buy me Sotos.
Deal. That's a sweet Mexican place near our office. Just so people don't think we're buying unsavory things that could possibly be named Sotos. Man, we just did our blacklist. So side note.
Wow, dude. Why are you so racist?
Our blacklist for like our chat filter. And the guy who had to do that, thankfully it wasn't me. I sit next to him. Like, he was just constantly amazed at how like every possible phrase and every possible word is this horrible meaning that you never wanted to like even think of as a possibility that people talk about. And so now it's just like anytime I say words like Sotos or something, it's like, well, I better clarify just in case it's this horrible thing that involves scarecrows.
You have to Urban Dictionary
kittens.
Everything.
Yeah,
I remember when I was doing the blacklist for PlanetSide 2, and it was hilarious because the programmer that I was working with was like such a straight shooter and never like curses in his whole life, and he said every single word, and I just couldn't help it. It's like watching your mom start saying the most vulgar things ever, and you're just like, stop saying that. You don't say those things.
Did they know what it meant, or like you tricked him into saying it?
No, he knew full well what it meant, but he was just like total business. He's like, well, you know, you can't
Don't even say it. Don't say it.
I know.
Don't
I
say
won't.
it.
But he's like, well, you can't say this. But the reason why they are saying this is because it has two of the same letters. So we need to make sure that they can't do that. And and he was just full on just saying it like it was nothing. And we're just sitting there laughing like, oh my God, guy, do you even hear yourself right now?
Awesome. All right, last review before we jump into the card of the week. This is from Brandon Youngblood, which is an epic name. He says, the best Hearthstone podcast. Josh Augustine is hands down my favorite Hearthstone commentator, and this podcast is by far the most informative of all the podcasts. I'm just going to start randomly inflection.
This is like praise Josh.
I actually wrote this review. So.
I'm not surprised.
I'll call it Brandon Youngblood. They'll never think it's me. He says, listen, the Angry Chicken and Blizz Pro have great stuff too, but the analysis of decks and cards and the meta is undoubtedly better by Josh. I don't know if that's true, but thank you for thinking that. I wish there was a deck battle every episode. Don't worry, next week, deck battle. We're getting back into it. Congrats to Josh and his wife on their baby born recently. Thank you. P.S. Josh, I have gone back through all past episodes. Whoa, impressive. And last night, I listened to the one where you featured your wife. Ooh, that was a good one. There was actually two, if you missed both of them. She was on...
There's also one with me. I'm here, too.
That's... Yeah, you really should have mentioned you. You should probably leave another 5-star review, Brandon Youngblood, and mention Adam this time. He says, OMG, she is adorable, which is also true. You two must be the perfect couple. Also true. She needs to come on again. Also true. And he signs it warmly, beast mode, pound 1874. If he's leaving there, I assume he wants to play with you guys. So bring out your best Murloc decks and go play beast mode, pound 1874. Challenge him constantly.
I need to be on this podcast more to like straighten things out a little bit. This is like getting too much into La La
You brought this
Land
up.
with you guys.
I wasn't messing with Murlocs at all. But anyways,
I need to bring this podcast back down to earth.
All right. Let's bring it down to earth with the most horrifying, devastating card in existence, which also happens to be our card of the week, which you need to sing the intro for.
Oh, I forgot I have to sing it. How do I sing an intro?
You sing anything you want as long as it has the words card of the week in it.
Okay.
And doesn't have the horrible blacklisted phrases that we're not allowed to use.
Okay. This is the card of the week, and it moves us all through despair and hope. It'll help you win till we find our place. That's all I got. I'm not going to sing the whole Circle of Life song.
I really wanted you to just keep going. I was pulling out my lighter. We were going to have a great time.
So
right.
The card of the week,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, rip ears, headphone users, is Kel'Thuzad. And when Kel'Thuzad came out, I thought it was very gimmicky.
You got to give all his stats just in case.
Okay, Kel'Thuzad is the final boss of the Naxxramas Wing Challenge. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that's talking crap to you through all the wings, says all those dumb little witty comments. And
dumb and witty. That's impressive.
They're really bad. Like, what does he say?
They're cheesy.
Like, I'm just going to click one right now. He says, "The 4 horsemen are my most powerful death knights." You
should be shaking in your boots, buddy.
Yeah. It's alive, but you won't be for long. Those are, like, really bad. Okay, so anyways, that's Kel'Thuzad. And when you beat him, you get his card, which is, I have it right here, a 8 mana, high casting cost, 6/8.
Neutral minion.
8 mana, 6/8 neutral minion. As long as you have unlocked him, you have him. But he, at the end of each turn, summon all friendly minions that died this turn. So, for example, if you had a Earthen Ring Farseer and you had Kel'Thuzad out and your Earthen Ring Farseer died, at the end of the turn, he would come back. Now, you don't gain any of the effects of him coming back, like gaining 3 life, but he does just come back at the end of the turn.
And this
anything that died that turn, that's what happens. So, how it gets out of control is when you play him on turn 8, assuming you have other creatures in play. For example, I played him the other day, and I had a 4/1 Karen Bloodhoof out, I had a 3/3 Sludge Belcher, and I had a 1/1 Acolyte of Pain. So I play Kel'Thuzad, and I run all 3 of those minions into their minions, killing their minions and my minions. And then I hit end turn, and my 1/1 Acolyte of Pain came back as a 1/3. My Sludge Belcher, which died, came back as a 3/5 Sludge Belcher, and my 4/1 Cairn came back as a 4/5 Cairn. Plus, I had the Cairn token and the Sludge Belcher token. It was just insanity. I was like, this is the craziest card. If you can get it out and actually, if it lives more than 1 turn, you probably won the game.
Yeah. So it feels like Hearthstone's rule, sort of with legendaries at least, is if it costs 8 mana, it wins you the game. Does that feel about right?
That's what it seems like, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does with stuff like Ragnaros and Ysera.
It seems like if you can get something out that costs 8 mana or more and they don't deal with it the same turn that it comes out, they're pretty much dead.
Yeah. And so is this card balanced? I've seen a lot of people say, like, this card is outrageous, but it is 8 mana, right?
I think it's pretty outrageous, but the reason why I think it's balanced is because there's a lot of ways that people can silence it. There's a lot of ways that people can just take it, like Mind Control or Faceless Manipulator.
Oh, yeah.
And it also dies to, I think it should have been a 7/8. I think at a 7/8 for 8, it would have been better because then it would have died to Big Game Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
But because it's a 6/8, it doesn't die to Big Game Hunter, which means it's actually harder to kill. But it's really good. I mean, I wouldn't say it's overpowered.
Yeah.
I think it's just really good right now. I think people are going to have to figure out how to prepare for decks that have Kel'Thuzad in them.
So you're seeing this run in pretty much every late game deck?
Not every single one. I definitely the priest decks. I mean, a really good counter to Kel'Thuzad is Hunter's Mark. But,
Yeah.
you know, Druid. I mean, this is what they do. They make cards that are good, and then other classes have cards that counter these cards directly, and then those cards end up being the cards that get those cards end up being the cards that get played. So I think right now, I think Kel'Thuzad will dominate for a little while, but I think somebody will figure out how to just play around it or figure out how to beat it.
Yeah, I will say, so I put him in my Druid deck that I've been playing, and man, when you put him down and like you just trade all your stuff like you said, and they all pop back, like your opponent immediately resigns, and it feels great. But you're also kind of sad, right? Because you wanted to do that 3 turns in a row just to keep doing it.
Yeah, if they don't resign, they don't understand what just happened. They try to figure out how to kill it, and then they can't. Yeah. And then they kill your stuff, and then it comes back again, and they're like, oh, God, I'm not going to be able to beat this.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I think, if you didn't read it closely, I would kind of assume if it was like at the end of my turn. So it's like, okay, well, I'll kill him. Yeah, but it's at the end of
every turn. Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, any parting thoughts on Kel'Thuzad before we close it out?
I would definitely play with it, just to play with it and see what it does. So, like, if you've never played the card, make a deck that has it in there just to try the card out, because it's so much fun to actually play and use.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those fun cards. You just have to play with him. All right, so that is the show. We're going to have full show notes along with links to all the stuff we talked about, including a lot of the decks that we mentioned that Adam says are really popular for each of the classes, and then tips for picking which cards to keep and throw away based on playing against all of those classes. It'll all be at our usual spot, GameDiplomat.com. Just swing by on up there, click on Hearthstone at the top. You can also listen to all of our past episodes, like Brandon Youngblood and Lancelot, if you want to get caught up if you're new to the show. Next week on the show, we're going to have a deck battle. Like I said, I'm not sure who's going to be in it yet. I'm still trying to get, actually, Ben Brode, the dev that you mentioned at Blizzard, Adam.
Celebrities up in here.
Originally, they said he was going to be on, then he had to take a break from work. He actually had a kid as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm hoping now that he's back in the office and all that sort of stuff, hoping to get him on. I'll try. But if not, I don't know. If you want to challenge Scott's awesome Survival Paladin deck, contact me. Let me know. I'll have my contact info in just a second, because you better be brave, because that deck is obnoxious. And then on other shows,
try to bait out his qualities.
Yeah, there you go. You already, that's true. This episode gave you tips for beating Scott. Make it happen. While Pet Battle Crew, my other podcast that I host, is finally coming back from its hiatus next week, I took longer to revive it because, well, let's be honest for a second, Happy Hearthstone is more fun. I also did an episode with Threshold the Hex podcast, my podcast about that other MMO card game. You can find it on thresholdpodcast.com. As always, though, we'd love to know what you thought of this show and what you'd like to see added to the show in future episodes. Send your feedback wherever you like on Google+. Just search for Happy Hearthstone. On Twitter, look for at jaugustine, or email ajosh@outlook.com, or just leave a comment on the blog, gamediplomat.com. Adam, where can people find you and ridicule you for hating on Murlocs?
San Diego, California. My address is...
Whoa.
What's your address again, Josh?
Yeah, not going to happen.
You can find me at rclegger, ARCLEGGER, on Twitter. And that is probably the easiest place to find me or contact me. I look at it all the time.
Literally all the time. We're eating lunch, and Adam does nothing but, hey, Josh, check out this tweet, and then, like, shows a different tweet.
Hey, and then you laugh, and then we have a good time.
It's pretty fun, yeah.
So you can find me there. Yeah, I guess go check out h1z1.com, because that's the game I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
So if you're into PC games, you should be, since you play Hearthstone, but I'm working on a new zombie survival MMO, so that should be coming out soon, so check that out if you want.
Awesome.
I guess that's it. I don't really have anything else to plug except for go watch my deck battle episode if you liked hearing me on Happy Hearthstone, and tell Josh if you want me on Happy Hearthstone again. Yep. Or just tell him that I'm the worst person ever. I'll accept
and his
that
deck battle episode is the Muhammad Ali Shaman episode. I can't remember the number. It's probably like 10 or so back.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, maybe longer. All right, so Adam, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your expertise and your mountaintop knowledge of high-ranked play with the rest of us. It was fun having you on as always. We got to find out who's buying lunch next time once Brandon Youngblood, or no, it's Lancelot lets us know where he
You realize if he says Jim, then we both lose.
Well, then we'll make Greg buy us.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. All right, so thanks again for visiting Happy Hearthstone and having a little fun with us. We'll see you next time.
Yay!
Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOreporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOreporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.